Well, hello everybody. Here we are at the side of the road. Just doing a little bit of filming. I hope you enjoy the film that is coming up next, because this is just an introduction to it. It's all about the materials, government's responsibilities, and just a little snippet of things, of how things grow on the sides of roads, and the importance of how they affect us. So please grab a drink, sit back and enjoy the video. And if you have any questions, contact me through Lantana Removal Queensland.com.au 0449 986 880, and we'll do a little bit of filming now. This pretty much could be a roadside anywhere around our country. It pretty much is a roadside anywhere around our country. That's one of the biggest problems that we face, is the spreader nature of this material, and the fact that the governments want to this is kilometre after kilometre after kilometre of this material, and it's very, very difficult to film it all and to show you all of the repercussions. So sometimes pieces like this actually are very, very important pieces of the story. But some of the flying that I have to do is quite extreme, to say the very least, in being able to get down into areas, especially on windy days like this. And then to be able to get through little windows like this, especially with the gusts here of this material. It's a very, very strong crosswind here, and the downdrafts are quite extreme. Very difficult flying. Hello? That's correct, yes. Yeah, best off not to move it again. Yep, if you can just text me your address, I can pick it up there. Okay, no worries. So it's between 8 and 8:30, and I'll see you then. And I take cash, credit card, or FPOS, and it's just plus any parts. So that's basically it. So all of these seeds, all of them, all float and all are falling into watercourses right here at the foot of this plant and being flushed all the way down the creek and waterways and tributaries all the way along. And this is everywhere. Everywhere that this material ends up in a watercourse or a riparian zone, 3,600 plants per plant from this one plant, and there's multiple plants here, all sitting on the edge of a road. And that's what we face. That's what our government is saying. No problem here, nothing to see here, don't worry about it, it's not an issue. See, it's not far short of being as tall as what, 3/4 of the way up that post there. And that's at least 30-40 feet tall. So it's at least 20 or 30 feet deep there. And that's not allowing for any fall in the ground for any of this drainage ditch being lower than ground level, lower than that bank over there. It's incredible how far these catastrophes continue, and our government just says, don't worry about it, it's not a problem. Just trust us. I'm not actually so fond of trusting these people. Not people like this that can lie and cheat as much as what they do and say that's perfectly alright. Everywhere where lantana comes up in the grasses and the sides of roads, they start mowing around it. And then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. This is a drainage ditch. What chance do you reckon they have that they're ever going to do anything about cleaning up the lantana in this area? Or any of these other weeds? There's wild tobacco growing there. All of the lantana down through this gully, this drainage ditch, all seeding the same as I just showed you a minute ago with those seeds, all changing over from blossom to seed, and they all float. Look at all the ripe ones over that side of the bush waiting to fall into that drainage ditch there where the reeds are, following that water. Growing 3,600 plants per plant, not per flower or per what's the name, that's per plant. This is completely smothering. Look at the growth factor in it when it gets into these trees here and it starts to really go hard and starts to climb. And in this drainage ditch there is nothing stopping it. It is just a complete free-for-all, swallowing up all these bottle trees. Look at all of the seeds here, and it's all sitting in the watercourse. And when the birds eat these seeds, they die. Look at the level of the seeds on this section just in here. Going to be interesting to see what this turns out like on film here. It is incredible the amount of seeds in just a very, very small area. Can you imagine the amount of birds that die from eating these seeds and moving them on? It creates a continuous hedge all down the side of the road and completely stops anything from coming across the road, anything other than a very small area of traffic. So when they do come blasting out of, if they can find any sort of area to come out of, which isn't showing anywhere here, and doesn't show anywhere down that side of the road there, there's no rat runs in there. So all of the animals, our natives, all avoid these areas, all avoid these infestations. So more and more huge areas of land is written off, and our wildlife, our little animals, don't even bother trying anymore. They don't even bother to try and go there anymore. There's no point. They can't get through, they can't get a drink of water, they can't get any resources at all down through the low country there in the creek. Oh, I tell you, makes you angry, because you can just film all day long and never run out of new places to film. And they wonder why the wildlife die, why we lose so many animals, so many birds. They died from eating the material. All of the different species there are all weeds. It doesn't have to far to drop into the watercourse there and cross the road. Still nothing, still no rat runs, still no thoroughfare for animals to cross. Continues kilometre after kilometre up there. That'll be a kilometre stretch, all exactly the same as this. Over into the watercourse on the other side. Look at it all down along the sides of the watercourse. Upstream, that's worth you noting. See, that's downstream. Look at it across there, all in those trees, all through that watercourse there, all through the watercourse over there as it follows this downstream. All of this above that section of material. How big the infestations are on that section of material. All the stocks removed from that side of the road. It's all been given over to the weeds, to the lantana and other toxic and noxious weeds. And on the upstream side of it, where the car went through this hole, look at the embankment up there. It's very interesting, isn't it? All the water flow is downstream there, and you look at it on that side of the road, and they don't admit that any of these things have any relevance. So one of the interesting things about this sort of environment is down on the watercourse, how much lantana plays such a big part in the seeding process down along the creek systems as they go through. And it just continues to be a major problem as they seed down into the watercourse, being fed off the catchment area above. So there's a fair bit of water flows down off those streets and off those areas, and then that helps to prosper the material further downstream. And you can see how much Lantana's over the other side there under all those trees over there, and how the system just keeps prospering further and further along, right into the water, right into the water. It becomes a major issue as things go through these areas, trying to keep any sort of safe process. You look at these infestations here in these spots, and the Lantana's actually in the water all the way across the embankment. It's actually in the water, dropping the seeds directly in the water. And there's thousands and thousands of kilometres of this type of scenario playing up just locally throughout Brisbane and southeast Queensland. And when we look at the amount of damage being done, it just continues, and people wonder why they've got problems further downstream in areas like this. And the only time anything gets done is utilising some of the not-for-profit organisations to do it by hand. And if you work out what it actually costs to do it by hand, and the dangers of being involved with the ticks that are in this material, you start to seriously get a very good understanding of how costly that is. It's enormously costly compared to us actually doing the work properly, and it's gone, it's finished with, it's dealt with. And the material, the good material that you want there, can come back and take over the areas. Look at the spiky apple, the size of the spiky apples standing on the edge of the watercourse. The amount of things with the councils, that they know better. There's no way in the wide world. There's no way that Malcolm Letts is right when he says that I'd have to prove that the council doesn't know or doesn't understand. If I had to prove to the council why having Lantana hanging in the water or on the edges of watercourses like this is a bad thing, then the councils shouldn't be in that business. That's what the actual story is there. But the fact that Mr. Malcolm Letts and biosecurity allow councils to actually do their own biosecurity weeds management plans would infer that he has the faith within those organisations that they have spent the money on training their staff, because his other argument would argue that that's not happening, that Moreton Bay Regional Council has no clue and is clueless. And then the question would be, why would he be allowing them to perform those roles if he knew they were incompetent? The questions are really for the Prime Minister and for the Premiers to answer as to how the hell does that work. You can't look at these things on a watercourse and say that's a good thing. That's 30, 40 foot in the trees here, way up in the trees, pumping their seeds downstream with no effort to put them in the water. So, you'd have to ask yourself, why is the council operating in that procedure where they should have the knowledge to know how detrimental to the environment this is? How this monoculture that gets created is detrimental all the way for the 50 k's to the bay. And this is thousands of kilometres around our southeast Queensland. Brisbane City Council's equally as bad. And Mr. Malcolm Letts has to actually ask the questions. Seeing as he's the professional in the biosecurity, he should be actually having an audit of all of the councils and deciding which side of the fence he wants to sit on. Does he say they are experts in their field and he was justified in allowing them to write their own biosecurity management plans? Or does he have no faith in them and they are incompetent because they can't tell that having material like this growing in a creek system is completely inappropriate? Which one is it, Mr. Letts? and Mr. Thompson, the federal person responsible for biosecurity? Which one is it? We need an answer on that, because you can't seriously keep sitting on a fence and saying, well, no, I trust them, or this is okay, and then see these types of things everywhere. You want to have a look out at Sanford. What should happen, I guess, is I should actually give them a list of places to go and visit. In fact, I'd like to meet them there on camera, and we can go through exactly what's happening in those spots, and they can answer the questions for the people at that point. But I don't know that either of those gentlemen will be any more forthcoming than what the Prime Minister or the Premiers have been. And yet they've had access to all of these film documents, they've been sent them. So at what point should they respond? You reckon they're pretty serious issues, especially when you see those documents from the DAF and that. Anyway, I'm Gary, Lantana Removal Queensland.com.au, and on Facebook. Thank you for popping in, and I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.